I think we are live. Yes, we are live. Hey, everybody, it's Mara Leineberger, author of Help, My Child Hates School, An Awakened Parent's Guide to Action. I don't think I've done this for a little while, so I'm going to do it because you never know, Erin. I'll just model for you. Once you've got the book in your hot little hands, you want to show people on a regular basis. No, you can never show it too many times because there's always somebody different looking. So this is my new book, not in bookstores yet. Will be in bookstores on May 1st, 2018, which is a really long time to wait. So how do I have these copies? These are my precious, beautiful author copies. If you want one, all you need to do is PM me with your snail mail address and I'll send you one in the mail. No charge to you. I want you to have the book because it's this guidebook on what to do when your kid's having trouble at school, how to work through those problems and how to get them in the right setting, one where they can thrive. So Erin is an incubated author as well. Erin Wolfson is the author of, oh my gosh, I know what it is and I wrote it down, and it's Why Can I Not Stick to My Diet? Did I get it right?
Very, very close. Why can't I stick to my diet? But
okay. And I thought this would be a great day to talk about it. We were supposed to talk about it last week, and I know you had some problems with the power went out at your house.
It was so weird.
But you know what I was thinking? Today's actually the better day to talk about sticking to your diet because we've just gone through Halloween. We're just about to go into Thanksgiving and Christmas. This is probably everybody's absolute nightmare time of the year to be thinking about diets of any shape or size. Either that or people are thinking oh my God, I need to get on a diet now before I hit New Year's and I feel horrible about myself. I mean, all these things, especially women, right? We're just ripping ourselves to shreds about food this time of the year.
Absolutely. I mean, I was writing on my blog the other day that I look at it we're basically it's like a three-pronged fork we're at right now, in which, you can just have a really good case of the screw it's, and just, the lies we tell ourselves and just bring on the elastic pants. You can overcorrect, which is nothing I recommend. And people decide to do the juice fast or keto or whatever diet they read about on the cover of, Red Book magazine or whatever they see at the grocery store, which I don't recommend either. What I recommend is a good old fashioned sensible diet, sensible food plan. And the irony of the name of my book is I don't even like diets. It's just what people always ask. Just eating normal food and eating normal food in a normal, mindful way. And by the way, normal took me forever to get to because we're not really conditioned or raised as women to eat when we're hungry and be okay with being hungry and to be okay with being sad and be okay with being angry and anything but happy, right? I mean, how often are we, as women or, why aren't you smiling and all that other nonsense? But, so early on, there's a really strange disconnect that happens with little girls, especially about food and our feelings, right? There's a bridge that's formed, and it shouldn't have ever been formed because I have a daughter and a son, and my 8-year-old, who's the boy, who's the younger one, he does not have an emotional thought about food in his body. I can just tell. He eats when he's hungry. When he's not hungry, he doesn't care what it is. He's just he just doesn't. It's fascinating to observe. Mm-hmm. But I can tell with my daughter, who just turned 12, they're as hyper aware as I am about being neutral and not saying anything to her, and she knows what I do. It isn't it's a secret, and I never ever say any of those triggering things or traumatic words that we all grew up with. Just she comes home and we'll say things, and I'm like, wait, what? I remember when she was in 3rd grade, and she goes, "Are my thighs fat?" I was like, what are you talking about? Because it's so much in their culture, and so. To try to really kind of unbrainwash her with the 16 hours a day I have her at home. Because very early on, they learn that it's not okay to eat what you want, and it's okay not to, to say when you want to eat something. And it gets very murky for them so early on that when I was writing my book, I started with like, opening chapter is like what I wore, what I weighed and what I weighed and what I ate. Because I started off like way in the beginning with like my first experiences with sugar, and I'm just going off the stories my mother told me of like, when I had sugar first, and I got stuff. And there's so many milestones when we grow up involving food, like first birthday, there's always a cake. So right early on, we're like, celebration equals sugar. Boom, right there. Like no one there can never not be a first birthday without a cake, which I'm not saying we change all of our celebrations, but there's that connection is so strong. Yeah. But if you watch it like objectively, like, and then as we get older, like who are the keeper of the flames of the celebrations? It's rarely men. Like, I don't think my husband would be like, what kind of cake are we getting the kids for their birthday? So
well, it's funny you said we would celebrate our first birthday with a cake. And all of a sudden I was sort of thrown back to, just 100 years ago. Well, first of all, 100 years ago, sugar wasn't the big thing that it is now. It was so rare.
So expensive.
And so inexpensive. So if you overindulged in it, it wasn't something that was going to become a habit because you just didn't have access to it. But, 100 years ago, your first birthday was often celebrated with you actually getting a name because you weren't necessarily going to be expected to live, so that you were just the girl baby or the baby until we knew you had passed certain milestones for survival. So the world is super different. But we've created new rituals, which I think that's what you're saying. It's like we have this ritual now that there's like a cake or there's alcohol involved or there's, pizza or food. And hey, as a former elementary educator, I can tell you, we went through all kinds of arguments with families and parents and even within the school about, candy as treats or birthday parties. And it was like this constant churn of food coming in for a kid's birthday. And then as a teacher trying to figure out when to serve the food so that it wasn't impacting instructional time, because of the effects of sugar. I taught in a one-room schoolhouse 2 years ago, and my students, these little guys were always hungry. So I actually made food a big part of what we did every day. They were allowed to eat when they were hungry, but I regulated what they were allowed to have. They weren't eating sugar while they were in class. They could have things like, some instant oatmeal or, now these, I'm not going to say these were the greatest of snacks, but I was relying on their parents to provide them. But I chose sort of healthier, more food-like snacks that they could have whenever they got hungry. Because these boys were super, super active, super, super lean, and they really were truly hungry. It wasn't like this emotional eating. It was just, I'm hungry. And they were hungry like every 2 hours, every hour or so. So they'd have a cup of goldfish, or they'd have some nuts, or they'd have, some fruit or whatever. And I was able to manage that in the classroom. But, nowadays food is so controlled in school, and then some of the things aren't even that healthy. So I don't even know how we begin to tackle some of those problems, except with the parent at home.
I think, somebody, because where I live outside New York City, and it's a very competitive, a lot of helicopter parents to the nth degree. And I will get these SOS calls from my friends, and they'll say, can you believe that Tate got a Gatorade at soccer practice today? I'm so horrified. I'm going to write the mother, the teen mom, a nasty email. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, okay. What do you think that's going to accomplish? Like, wait, what? And I'm like, well, do you serve Gatorade in your home? Like, well, no, of course not. It's sugar water. It's and I'm like, I don't either, by the way. I've never bought a Gatorade in my life. I just don't like it. I think it's should just drink water. And, and by the way, to truly need electrolyte replacement, it's like, there's studies. You don't need it for like hours of high endurance, like Ironman. I mean, your kid playing soccer in Connecticut for 30 minutes one fall Saturday, they're not going to need to replace their electrolytes. I mean, come on.
I think what you're pointing to, and I see this so much of the decisions about what we should be eating, what we should be serving our kids, and frankly, like all of the things related around parenting is driven by commercials, is driven by advertising. And so, I talk with parents all the time about asking questions about that stuff. Like, well, so who says the Gatorade is the thing that we all need? Go look at the research, and I think you're probably right. Unless we're high-end athletes and we are really truly depleting stores through really rigorous activity, do we need that?
Exactly. And, first of all, if you did any like actual research, you would find that Gatorade is like back in the 80s, as far as like with carbo loading, it's old science. We know so much better now. Like any of the current high performing athletes are not drinking Gatorade. They might be endorsing Gatorade. They're not drinking Gatorade. First of all. Second of all, your kid kind of playing soccer does not need Gatorade. But most importantly, in this scenario, your 8-year-old who gets a little bit of Gatorade one Saturday morning with his friends, that's more important that he's part of the tribe, quite frankly.
Yeah, true.
And you zip it, and the rest of the day he goes back to normal eating, and you don't make a big deal about it, and you don't go and cause World War III with the mom or the coach or the whatever, and you just go back to normal life. That is what I felt was more important for the kid holistically, because food is just a part of life. It can be a very important part of life, but as far as, how much does that Gatorade matter? Like, do you want to die on that hill, basically, is what I said to her. And I think she was like completely shocked that I didn't give her all these statistics on like, Gatorade. I said, you don't serve Gatorade in your house. You don't buy Gatorade. So I said, whenever, Molly is the snack mom or whatever, then you'll know. Maybe that's the week where like you somehow cut her off at the pass the week, earlier on in the week and say, hey, I got a good deal at Costco and I'm going to bring the drinks this week.
Well, what I was thinking, Erin, is like, this is one of those opportunities where parents can begin to have conversations with their children.
Exactly.
So like, do you want to know why we don't have it in the house? This is why. It's not like I'm not a mean mom. This is the research. This is what it does to your body. Then comes this really powerful discussion you could have with your child about how we behave in social situations, when we choose to say yes and when we choose to say no, because actually I would much rather have a conversation with my daughter about social drinking when it involves Gatorade than I would about alcohol. And it's like, this is a chance to do the sort of training wheels practice on, okay, so we don't drink Gatorade at home, and this is why we don't. Lots of people do. Not everybody's going to know all of these reasons why. You get to decide whether you're going to participate or not. And, if you want, you can do it. If you do it, measure how that makes your body feel. Start to see if that's true or not. And then strategize about how you could say no, thank you.
Exactly. And Gatorade can be, can also stand for a lot of other things. But I think as far as like when you're blindsided by these sort of situations, calling up the mother and bawling her out is not going to do any good, or dragging the kid off the field in the middle of it is not going to do any good. Or if you know that she's the kind of parent that's inclined to go that direction, the next time you see her name's on the list, you could maybe do something about it. And you can have those conversations. But what she wanted to do was after the fact was call her up. And she basically wanted a bullet points on how to yell at this woman. And I wasn't going to give them to her, because I kept telling her, it's not going to do you any good. Focus more on your kid and, make sure he has a really nice dinner tonight with a lot of protein and like low glycemic carbs and a bunch of water, quite frankly. But, pick your battles. And also I agree, like, when we have Gatorade, we don't always have to drink the Gatorade.
Yeah.
So I think,
And those are strategies we teach adults, right? That when you're at a cocktail party, there are alternatives you can have that make you feel like you're part of the group.
totally.
And even if you have an alcoholic drink put in your hand, you could take a sip and just set it down. So like your kids can start to learn those skills with Gatorade. So how about it's the week after Halloween, and I can only imagine we had originally talked about some strategies for Halloween. So, but now that we're after the fact, I see so many people's kids got mountains of candy. And I'm wondering about your strategies for that. I can only attest to when I was a kid, my mother, God bless her. And actually, it's interesting. Today's the 15th anniversary of my mother's death. So I would say like kind of cool to be talking about her today. She used to have us put everything in a Ziploc bag and she put it in the freezer. And sort of out of sight, out of mind. And we had to ask for permission to get a piece. And then it was only like one piece a day, if it was even that. And the candy would last, well through the holidays. And
it lasted till Easter, actually, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not me. I really liked my candy as a kid.
Candy, all right. No, I think, what I do with my kids, and I wrote about it in my blog as well. And a lot of people were really excited because it was a way to do it. Because, because being the Halloween Grinch is just not realistic. I feel, to just not have your kid participate at all. Because so much of these things are so important to little kids. It's one thing if, as adults, we don't want to pass out candy. We don't want to just don't turn the light on in front of our door of our house. That's how we choose to not buy into it, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're an 8-year-old and everyone at school is dressing up and all, it's a cultural thing. So, what I do with my kids is I don't buy it before, that night, all that kind of stuff. But then I let them trick or treat. And I just know that November 1st is going to be a very ugly day, especially if it's on school night, the 30% of school night, because they're up too late. They, eat, how they eat way too much sugar. Is too exciting. It's also my daughter's birthday, which makes it a much harder day in our household because, we're trying to do birthday cake and the grandparents are calling and the doorbell's ringing off the hook. So it's just a very strange, in our household. But anyway, I usually give them a couple of days. Either the second or the third. Because by then they've picked out what they really love. And they're kind of, one kid loves one thing more than the other and they've traded and they don't. By then it's like a whole bunch of Snickers bars and Smarties and Laffy Taffy and stuff. This day I'm like, usually, guys, we're going to donate it because there's the dentist will buy it. We give it to the fire department. A couple of places in my area will send it to the troops. And I actually buy it from them. Mm-hmm. I buy it from them.
A couple of weeks ago, I talked to Jenny Carr, who wrote a book about anti-inflammatory eating. And her method was she lets her kids trade in candy for experiences, things that they can go do as a family. So, that's another cool idea of something to do.
I like that idea as well.
Yeah.
But what I've done is, and then what our tradition now is we donate it. And then we go to Target and my son gets Legos. And now my daughter, who's done with Legos, now she gets, makeup or something. So they've had their Halloween mm-hmm. and they've also, done something nice and it's out of the house. Yeah. So it's not that I think if you completely try to take it away from them, that will always backfire because
I'm a fan of the, some things in moderation, but I know, I had a partner with a child and I remember doing some activities with Sophia about candy and I gave her a roll of Smarties. It's funny you say that one day. And she said, she came to me and she said, can I eat these? She was used to asking for permission, which I think it's okay, because I'm helping her monitor. Yeah. But I remember having this dialogue and I said, here's how I work with it. I let my body tell me what it wants and what it needs. She was kind of curious. And I said, just use your imagination. Just think inside yourself and ask your body, how many can I eat these Smarties? And she said, I asked my body and it said yes. And I said, well, that's cool. and I said, well, what else did your body? She said, my body said I can have 4. And I'm like, sounds good to me. And, whether that's really what's going on or not, I loved this notion of let me ask my body what would be good for it. Instead of just, I've got it and I'm going to eat it mindlessly because I'm stressed out or whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I was born in the 70s, and my well-meaning yet misguided mother, she definitely had like overcorrections. Like, there was a long time where like we were never allowed to have anything sweet ever. So whenever I was allowed to have something sweet, I could not handle it. Like, for instance, every single day when I was a freshman in college, I ate Crunch Berry cereal. You know what that is?
Yeah, because you didn't have it at home. That's
disgusting.
The person who never lets their kid have a soda or never lets their, lots of things that are not good for us. Soda, sugar.
So then now when we go on vacation, my kids eat Lucky Charms, which I think is disgusting, by the way, and goes against completely everything that like, I don't eat it. But you know what? Like by day 2 or day 3, they're back to eating, the normal food that I'm eating.
Why is that? Are they actually cognizant of how it makes them feel? Do you talk with them about that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, those Lucky Charms are not free. Like there's a cost to eating those Lucky Charms, and that means you got to talk to your mom about it. Like, how are you feeling now? Like, are you full? And I'm sure they're like, oh God, here comes mom in the Lucky Charms conversation, because I'm trying to build a connection with them of like how you're eating and how you're feeling and how you're thinking, because do you think best when you eat the Lucky Charms? Do you think best when you eat, whole grains and fruit and some sort of lean protein? And my kids are, self-aware enough to know like, wait, I think best when I eat normally, which in our house is whole grains, lean protein and fruits and vegetables. So, so they understand that like how to, what they know what feeling good feels like versus, sugar and all that other stuff. And I think a lot of kids grow up not knowing that. So that's part of the problem. But my kids do know that because that's how they've eaten the majority of their life. There are holidays, there are vacations, but and I always really see a lot of like Disney World or places that are like really, just you get a whole cross section of America, and it's just, you see people you would never see, your normal like little community of just people that let their kids eat like they're on vacation all year round. And you can just tell like how the kids, I don't know how those kids function in school, quite frankly. I'm sure you're better. You can speak to that better than I can. But a lot of adults grow up with these really bad eating habits. And by the time they get to me, they're so ingrained. They're just so like those wear patterns are so deep about like, what is breakfast? What to drink when you're thirsty? That's a classic one. When you're thirsty, what do you drink? And they'll be like, soda. Like, no. Water. Like, really? I'm like, water. Sure. Yeah, I'm very sure water, because they're brought up like thirst equals Diet Pepsi, thirst equals Pepsi, thirst equals Sprite. I'm just like, no. Like, and that's because that's just how they were raised. And not that mom was bad or mom was good, because I don't want to deal with their mom stuff. But I'm just saying, like, biologically, you're thirsty, you should go to water.
Well, just to sort of put that one away, it has nothing to do with parents' goodness or not. It has to do with, you can't teach something that you weren't taught. I mean, you can, but it actually takes a lot more. It's like the effort that it takes to get a rocket ship off the planet through gravity is what it takes to go beyond what your parents were able to teach you. It's why this deep spiritual work is so challenging. It's why we need to have coaches to help us. We need somebody who's like a few steps ahead of us in whatever it is that we want to learn to master, be it food, be it education, whatever it is, and in working with the Author Incubator, where we have access to lots of really great coaches. There's a lot of inertia built up, and it's very challenging to go beyond what you were taught And what you were taught is even more so by what you saw. It's like you learn more from what you see your parents do than what they tell you. It's like that, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Kids don't listen, but they're always watching.
Yeah. So if they hear you talking about don't eat Lucky Charms, and then they come into the kitchen and mom is standing there hoovering a bowl of Lucky Charms, they're going to be like, Lucky Charms is the thing.
Lucky Charms. There's something at Lucky Charms that I want a part of. So as soon as I can find them, I will eat them.
Yeah.
I remember my mother saw Dirty Dancing with a friend when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, just so you know, you're never seeing that movie. And I was like, what? She's like, I saw Dirty Dancing when I was with, Julie, that's her best friend from childhood. And you're never seeing that movie. So as soon as that movie came out on video or cable or whatever, I was babysitting. I saw that movie right away. And I was waiting for like this magical thing that I wasn't supposed to be seeing, right?
Right.
I remember watching and I was like, well, they're like dancing really close and stuff.
Yeah.
So when I was like 30, I was like, hey, Mom, I said Dirty Dancing, right? She's like, you did? And I was like, what was your big objection? And she was like, I don't even remember now. But I was like, you just like put a highlight out. You put a spotlight into like what I wasn't supposed to see. So I just like ran to it. But I think that's what happens sometimes with adults or sorry, parents and food is like misguided, well-meaning, yet this is what happens. And also, we are a couple steps behind a lot of our clients. And, you can't cure everything, but I do know that with at least food, like almost every single time someone will come to me and they want to lose 10 pounds or they want to learn how to eat right, or they want to, clean up something about their food. And, we'll always talk about it. And, it's not that anyone's like wants to be this way or is lazy or any of those sort of negatives. They just need to learn a better way. So it's a matter of showing them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did want to say we've got a couple of people watching. We've gotten a couple of likes. If anybody's out there watching us live and they have specific questions for Erin about her new book, we would love that. Or you have questions about your own dietary issues or you want her guidance. I know I have some questions I've been seeing, and I'll ask a question for everybody while we're sort of waiting to see if we can get any live questions. I have seen this whole new hotness with the keto diet. So can you sort of tell me what that is and why? To me, okay, my initial take was it reminds me very much of the Atkins diet that was so popular, like 10 or 15 years ago.
It's actually,
what is all about that?
It's more extreme than Atkins because it's even more fat. You basically, Atkins this is the thing. Well, rewind. Okay. So whenever you have like a quote unquote diet, you'll have like your Atkins, and then you have people that typically don't even read the book and they just take it to exaggerate it, right?
Like they just take a food plan and they go buy the stuff and eat what they said that they're allowed to eat, and that's
it's like people that are paleo, but then they think that means they can eat nothing but like macadamia nuts all day. Or it's like that's not really what paleo is. Paleo is, you don't eat tons and tons of macadamia nuts all day. It's actually like, non-processed vegetables and lean meats and, not a lot of, if any, processed food and such. The keto diet, which is short for ketosis, is basically what happens when diabetics are burning fat because their body is in a state of shock. So the keto diet is so high fat, like percentage wise, I think it's like 80%. And some of them are down to like 20 grams of carbohydrates a day, which is like, like 2 Triscuits or something. The problem with that is a lot, which I'll get to in a second. So they're eating tons and tons of fat, a little bit of protein, and a smidgen of carbohydrates. Now, the problem with a smidgen of carbohydrates is, first of all, like fiber. You need fiber for a lot of reasons. A lot of them being like GI issues. So if you don't have any fiber and you're eating all that fat, something's gone. There's a lot. there's a lot of like keto groups that I'm a part of that I just kind of like observe, and people are like, it can be bad news. I'll just leave it at that. There are people that say they have amazing results right away. And with all of these diets, amazing results right away don't really interest me. Amazing results you can maintain for 3 to 5 years, that interests me, because it's easy to lose weight. Can you maintain it? I have a friend that did keto and she was in the hospital last week.
Wow.
Because she kept texting me. She's like, how can I tell I'm in ketosis? I got the strips from the drugstore. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, stop doing that. Like, I said, you don't need to like be in ketosis. Just, I want to lose 10 pounds. I have this event coming up. I want to lose it fast. I'm like, what is losing it fast going to do for you? Because
actually make it come back on faster.
That's what I said to her. I said, have you read my book? I said, the goal is to keep it off, is to find a way to live, because you want to ditch the diet mindset. So the losing it fast is just part of that whole dance we've done forever. So, but ketosis, or the keto diet, is just high fat, very little proteins, next to nothing carbohydrates. And a lot of it's kind of having a moment right now. People are eating a lot of butter, a lot of butter, like, just like fat bombs they're having, coconut oil with like a little bit of coconut. Like, they're doing things like they'll have like paleo fudge, for instance, which is coconut oil, a little bit of nut butter, freezing it, and then putting like salt on it. I've had it before, because I always try this stuff just so I can talk about it. Right. And it tastes okay, but I wouldn't want to eat it all day.
That sounds kind of disgusting to me. I mean, for me,
I know.
The single thing I know is that I feel better when I don't eat a lot of sugar. So I do try, this time of the year it's challenging, and I'll have chocolate where I'm out and about. And I know I don't feel as well, and I allow myself to do that just to remind myself that, like, if I really want some chocolate, I go out and get like really good dark chocolate, and then I enjoy it. And then I don't crave it again so much.
That's the thing is, what you asked about earlier was like, the holidays coming up and like, what can we do and all this other, just that sort of general question. What I tell people is basically, what day is today? The 6th? I think Thanksgiving is the 23rd. So my math isn't great. That's 17 days. Yeah. 70 days. Yeah. So 17 times 3, like there's a lot of meals between now and Thanksgiving. I don't know. So what if you were to eat normally from here to there? Not diet, not have a giant case of, who cares, but just normal, like moderate, like healthy eating. You would feel really good. So when you sat down to Thanksgiving dinner, you wouldn't be starving because you've been, depriving yourself for 3 weeks. And you wouldn't have just your blood sugar and your brain chemistry, and quite frankly, your self-esteem wouldn't be in the gutter from overindulging and just being in this really weird place mentally that you would just be like, bring on the extra plate of stuffing. You really would kind of just be looking at it as a meal. And you would look at your options. And what I always do is like, there's some things about Thanksgiving I don't like. I don't really necessarily like gravy and mashed potatoes. Just me, I never have. Like, it's just a textural thing. People love it. And if you love it, have a serving. But have a serving when it's hot, when you can pay attention, and really like when you can check in with your body. Like, you have a couple bites, put your fork or your spoon down. Do I like it? Like your partner's daughter, Sophia, with the 4, like, hey, does this still taste good? All right, maybe you have a couple more bites. And then maybe you only eat a third of the mashed potatoes. That's okay. Put it back in the fridge. You eat it later. Maybe your brother-in-law will eat it, whatever. But you don't have to be eating. And Thanksgiving is not 5 days. It's one meal, really. But people make it 5 days. it starts on Wednesday, ends on Sunday in some families. So I think that mentality too, but that really happens at Christmas, I notice. For a lot of people, Christmas starts kind of Wednesday of Thanksgiving and goes until January. And they just think of one big giant Christmas. And what's really bad is like at work. I mean, like staff rooms and stuff for teachers. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a teacher forever, like just the stuff, like the junk and the presents. I mean, and so much of that stuff it comes from a kind place with the parents, but it's still just like, it's overload and it becomes like toxic to your body. And the problem with sugar is the more you have, the more you want. So, and if you have, mashed potatoes or whatever, that's good. I'd rather someone have mashed potatoes than a piece of pecan pie, quite frankly. Because there's so much sugar in it, because you have the Karo syrup and you have the sugar. And then it's on top of white flour, which, chemically reacts so similarly to sugar to our brains. It's like triple sugar. So, if I had like my choice of what somebody was to eat at Thanksgiving, for argument's sake, pecan pie would be like the last thing I would recommend.
Wow.
By the way,
you've got me thinking I was just thinking this morning.
I like pecan pie, by the way.
Christmas because it's sort of like, it's like the tradition of Christmas cookies.
No, I'm not saying don't have traditions, but I'm saying, what I also put in my Halloween blog was like, there are so many traditions we can have that aren't about food, like movies and events and decorating and doing nice things for other people. But, but we kind of get in this like food mindset because everyone tells us to, like, the TV shows, the marketing. Think about when you go to a grocery store at Christmas, there's all like the things at the end of the aisles where it's like, grandma and the cookies and like everyone's enjoying themselves. And it's like, here, buy these nuts, so, and it can be great, but like, you can also, Christmas Carol, and you can donate your time to the Salvation Army, and you can do so many other things besides eat a bunch of Christmas cookies. And you can have a Christmas cookie here and there. Just be aware that, ideally, like what I would say to someone, if you're going to have a Christmas cookie, have it with lunch. Because, at the end of lunch, because you'll just have like protein and carbs and some sort of fat at lunch, and then like dinner can be normal versus having it after dinner, because dinner is a really hard time for a lot of people. And night eating can be really tricky. So if you're going to have that sweet whatever, have it at lunch. And I know I can't say, just live this perfect life where you just, all you do is just sit in this chicken breast and broccoli place, because that's not fun. And that's just not realistic. However, let's be smart, because we know what the other way gets us. We know very well what the other way gets us.
Yeah.
And we know how we felt January 2nd, time and time again. And that's why there's so many Nutrisystem commercials that come on that day.
And
the Weight Watchers and all the other ones. So I think, what I was telling someone the other day is like, think about Labor Day. Labor Day seems like yesterday, right? And that was like 60 days ago. So approximately like 60 days from now will be New Year's. So what if on Labor Day one decided they were going to really clean up their diet? Like this was it. Like no more funky foods, no more messing around, no more of just all of that shenanigans. And right now you were feeling your best. Would you go back today just because it was 3 weeks before Thanksgiving? Probably not. You'd probably want to keep that good feeling up. Because I have a client who decided that. She decided after Labor Day, like she just was like, enough's enough. Her arthritis symptoms have gone away. She's lost like 20 pounds. Like everyone tells her how much calmer she seems. Like, she's just like glowing. And, and she's like, well, I don't know what to do about Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm like, it's 2 meals or 3 meals. It's not, I mean, if there are 60 days, 180 meals, don't let like 4 or 5 meals sabotage the rest of your months. Like it's not worth it, because think of how much better you will feel if you eat how you're supposed to eat. Because the problem is, like, once we get in that like cycle of just like throwing in the towel, it just, it's just kind of self-perpetuating. And it's not because we don't want to do it better, or we don't want to do a better way, or we are lazy, or any of that other like self-sabotage, negative thinking. It's biology is against us. Our brain chemistry, the sugar and the chemicals and the dopamine receptors, they're fighting us. So if we give them the ammunition, they will stay on that road as long as possible. So it's up to us to like kick them out of the driver's seat, basically.
Well, I was talking to my partner, Michael, and he said, he's read some of the actual biological science about the way the bodies work. And the sugar was so rare, just a short while ago, that our bodies were designed to crave it and for us to take in as much as we possibly could, because it was so rare. So like if we came across a tree that was loaded down with fruit, which would have been one of, or a bee's nest or whatever, we would have eaten as much of that as we could at that time, because we weren't going to get it again.
Absolutely. And if you think about it too, like, evolution and that kind of thing, but also wherever we were, evolutionary, like that kind of thinking, whatever food we had in our ecosystem, like let's just say, in Connecticut, what food would I have naturally run across this time of year? Maybe apples, not mangoes, like I could get at Whole Foods.
Right. You would have been eating apples until you were sick of them.
I'm saying maybe apples if I could find them.
Fish, you would have had some, chestnuts, things like that.
Yeah, chestnuts, those are fun. Not like mangoes, not like all that stuff we import from other cultures, other parts of the planet. So seasonal eating is very important too, because whenever we bring in all this crazy food from other parts of the world, even excluding like, the geothermal footprint and all of the miles on the food, but that's also something to think about. It's like when we take, the kind of food that we're not meant to eat, given where we are on the planet, that throws us out of whack as well. So whenever I see someone like in the winter with a giant green juice, I cringe, because that's throwing off their body as well. Because they're, like, oh, okay, great. We're doing green juice with tons and tons of, tropical fruit, but then it's 20 degrees outside. So it's like, that's also going to screw with like what your brain thinks is going on. So it's really important to be aware of what signals we're giving our body through what we're eating.
Well, I know in the realm of school, there was a movement that I was part of when I was still in the classroom. It was in its infancy, and it's got much more momentum right now. It's called the Edible Schoolyard. And the school will actually plant a garden, on the property of the school, so that the kids get to see, farm to table, basically. And there's lots of science that can be done, biology, mathematics, all kinds of curricular ties. When I had a chance to do that at the school I was teaching, we had a parent who was a chef and came and actually cooked for the kids in the front yard of the school. And it was such a powerful experience. Yeah. So, that's sort of, you're talking about the farm to table movement. That's it. Yeah. And eating seasonally and all of those, growing your own foods and, eating what is the proper food for where the climate that you live in.
Yeah. I mean, that's also really important as well, but because of, just the demands now, like how people, they want mangoes in January in the Northeast, and don't grocery stores will do it.
Sure.
So it's this very strange phenomenon where people just insist on having everything year round. And I, again, like, people don't know any better. I know better because this is what I do. And I don't buy the same foods all year round for my kids, not because it's not in the stores, but because I know that they shouldn't be eating. Like I would never make gazpacho in January, right? I wouldn't want chicken noodle soup in June. It's the same concept.
Yeah.
But that just goes hand in hand with, what we're telling our bodies what we're telling our body what we need. So
I can't remember if you did this in your book or not, but I'm thinking, we've talked about so many different things to consider when you're thinking about the health, the nutrition, and the feeding of your body, which is this, in the way that I see it, it's this vehicle for your spirit, for the divine, and it requires attention, as much attention as we put into our thinking mind and into our spiritual bodies. What is the single, like if you were to list the number one thing I should do, like the top 5 things in the order that you sort of perceive them in making changes, what's the most important thing I should do? Is it getting rid of sugar, or drinking water, or eliminating caffeine, or, going vegan, vegetarian, what's scientifically, or even out there in the health coaching world, what's the most important? Where do I start? What's the most important thing I should be considering?
I would say sugar first.
Getting rid of sugar.
But because of the huge impact sugar does, first of all, your blood sugar. Your blood sugar will be constantly spiking, which will affect your hunger levels. And also, if you think about someone that's diabetic, especially long-term diabetic, they have a lot of health issues because of the blood spikes and lows. So that's kind of what a lot of people that have a lot of sugar are doing to themselves, because they're always spiking and then plunging, spiking and plunging. So if you have someone that's a long-term sugar user, that's what they're doing to themselves for years. That's why they wake up and they slam a soda, because they have a headache. You get cavities, you get, a bunch of other things, but their blood sugar. And also sugar is in so much processed food, and it's in soda, and it's in, so much stuff that if you were just to get rid of all types of added sugar. And by the way, I'm not saying get rid of fruit. People always freak out when they're saying, are you saying get rid of fruit? No, but I'm saying don't start to binge on fruit. That don't all of a sudden, be eating 30 mangoes a day, because mangoes have a lot of sugar. But you can still have fruit, but be mindful of it. But number one, I would say sugar, because caffeine doesn't do as much damage as sugar. Mm-hmm. And as far as the vegan debate, there's a lot of vegans that are real junk foodies. They eat Funyuns and Slurpees. That's their idea of lunch. So sometimes vegans aren't the greatest eaters. So I would need to know more about what you're looking at when you say want to go vegan.
Yeah.
And also I think vegan versus a meat eater is also a spiritual decision, mm-hmm. or a philosophical decision. While sugar I look at more as just education or mindfulness, and also it's just it can just be a really bad habit or a crutch that you might have gotten into, and we need to just work on that. And also sometimes people need time to taper off of it, because also with sugar, NutraSweet, artificial sweeteners go hand in hand, because you can't get rid of sugar without getting rid of wheat, because it's chemically so similar. You'd have to take that with you as well. And we'd also have to take artificial sweetener, because when people all of a sudden drink tons of Diet Coke or diet whatever, their body's oh, great, something sweet's coming, because it tells your body something sweet's coming. And then when nothing actually sweet comes, your body demands more sweets. And eventually, there's all these studies of people get diet soda or diet anything or diet yogurt or whatever. At the end of the day, they'll have eaten more sugar than someone that has the real stuff. So when
roundabout, they'll be eating carbs that are loaded with sugar or
exactly.
Yeah.
So when I say get rid of sugar, you would really be getting rid of all sugar, all types of sugar and flour and artificial sweetener. So I think that was that's my number one recommendation for anyone that wants to start. But I also think if you just decide I'm going to get rid of sugar, and you post it on social media and you tell everybody, and then next day at lunch, you're oh my gosh, what did I do? Just take it one meal at a time. Just take it, just okay, one meal at a time. Because if you get really like huge proclamations and stuff, you're going to overwhelm yourself. And also you actually are going to have detox symptoms. Even people that don't even realize that they're really into a lot, even have a lot of intake of sugar and artificial sweeteners, and they experience like headaches or moodiness. So it's not necessarily that you're quote unquote a sugar addict, which you hear that term a lot nowadays. It's your body reacting to the lack of a chemical that it's gotten used to. Does not mean anything bad. It's just a biological phenomenon that is happening to you. So I think like let's take the judgment out of it and just say what it is. Because a lot of people get very uptight about that. I get it. Like it's a strong word, but we can move past it if we just take it one meal at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah. And then I think probably my understanding of things, the next biggest thing I could be doing for myself is drink more water.
Then I would say water, because caffeine, I don't really worry about caffeine unless you tell me you're drinking like 30 cups of coffee a day. Which are you?
Oh, me? No. Well, I drink 2 or 3 cups a day.
You're fine. No, but I say water is good. I would say drink up your water, because you can never really drink enough water. Every once in a while you hear about someone that like overhydrates at a marathon, but that's like someone that's way, way different and under extreme conditions. And they've had, 3 giant Poland Spring worth of water and, because they were nervous about the running. But, the more water you drink, the better you feel. And the less water you drink, the less water you will drink. It's this weird phenomenon that happens. I think water should be everyone's go-to drink. But you have to, let's start where you are. So if you, have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, okay, cool. Have a glass of water in between. Mm-hmm. And the next week we'll have coffee, water. And then slowly we'll just have coffee and then water. So it doesn't have to be this like pulling the rug out from under you, because that's not going to that's going to shock you so much and just lead you to rebel. Where like, you can have it. You can keep your coffee. Let's keep your coffee. I mean, maybe you love your coffee. Maybe you love the ritual of your coffee and the smell and the cup you use and the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Cool. Keep it. Just drink more water afterwards.
Yeah. Or I drink my water out of the coffee cup.
There you go too.
Yeah.
But I mean, but that, not necessarily. I think people sometimes think like of healthy eating or healthy drinking in black or white, when there are some things you can absolutely keep in your life. But I don't really think, I know there's no room for sugar in anyone's like everyday life, because of just all the damage it can do. And, and whenever I hear people talking about cheat days, that always makes me cringe, because, if you're, eating like a pretty clean diet, and then all of a sudden you just go on like a free for all for a weekend, it's going to take your body a long time to recuperate. Mm-hmm. And, I used to work at Weight Watchers. I worked for them, and I also lost weight with them. And so I know all of their stuff. And they really got into America's psyche that like, you can eat whatever you want, as long as it's in moderation, right? So Oprah tells us, that's what Fergie used to tell us. I don't know who used to be their spokesperson before that. Well, it's not necessarily true. Like, if you're one of those people that if they have a piece of cake and feels like they want more cake for a couple of days afterwards, maybe you really shouldn't have that cake. And that's okay. But a lot of society gets this idea that like, well, why can't I have it every so often? Well, maybe because your body just is so much more efficient and you think so much better and you feel so much better if you aren't. And that's sometimes hard for people to wrap their brain around. Mm-hmm. And that takes time. So I don't really start with that right away. If I tell someone that like on day one, they run away. But on day one, we're just going to talk about what we're going to eat for breakfast. And then we'll talk about lunch and then dinner. That's where we start. Because if we talk about your birthday in 45 days, it's way too much.
So how do people get your book? I know we're coming down, if you believe it or not, we've been talking for almost an hour. This always happens that we get into the conversation and an hour flies by like nobody's business. How do people get your book?
My book is going live on Amazon on Thursday. We're doing the red carpet launch. It's just, I can't believe it. So it's Why Can't I Stick to My Diet? So it will be, I'll have a link and you'll have all the links up. So
I put a link down below, but I don't know that it's live or not. Oh, so hey, Elise asked us a question. She said, so is the premise that we can't stick to the diet because of habits that we formed in childhood? Maybe, and I was kind of wondering, what is the answer to the why can't I stick to my diet?
The answer to the question is because of sugar, flour, and artificial sweeteners.
Okay, and it may be the relationship I formed with them in childhood.
No, of course. But the scientific answer is because, we can't stick to it because we have all these little drones that are hijacking our brains, in the food. Because, we might be doing exactly everything we say, but then the food we're eating is, despite our best efforts, next thing we know, we're in sugar all over again because it's in everything, or because we're told we can eat it every now and then when a lot of people can't. So that's
so it's some of it's habit, but with the way you're talking about it, it's addiction that comes from sugar and flour and other things that are in processed foods.
Yeah, it is because, a lot of us, when we don't have those sort of foods, we'll get a headache. Mm-hmm. We'll have a lot, especially if you've ever noticed just how your body feels. And addiction is such a strong word. And I don't really like to use it very often, even though I am a food addiction counselor, because a lot of red flags for people. But I think that is what happens, is because the reason we can't stick to our diets, not because we're bad people, not because we don't mean it. It's because the food we're eating is basically, taking away our ability to stick to what we really want, because of all these little substances that keep tripping us up. So as soon as we get rid of those substances, we can feel better. We can weigh what we're meant to weigh. I mean, I always thought that I was just supposed to weigh what I used to weigh. That's what I really thought it was. This is what I'm going to weigh. This is how it's supposed to be. Well, even though I wanted to weigh what I weigh now, because I was always trying to get down to what I am now. And once I got rid of all those foods, I weigh what I weigh now, and I'm not starving all the time. And I'm not, miserable. And I'm not, I'm sure I'm a little bit bitchy, but I'm not as bitchy as I was normally, because I'm eating a lot of protein and fat. So my blood sugar is stabilized. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not constantly angry at myself because I, went on a sugar binge or whatever. And it's not the Monday morning diet thing all the time. So mm-hmm. That's what I learned. There is a better way. Cause I always was there's gotta be a way. Cause I didn't have all these people that were maintaining their body weights. And every time I would talk to them, oh yeah, I just stopped dieting. What does that mean? What do you mean you stopped dieting? I just eat food. I'm what does that mean in English? Tell me. And until I realized for me, and then I learned all the science behind it. And in my book, I talk a little bit about the science, just enough to explain it to quote unquote normal people. And I did have a PhD, and I had a couple doctors read everything to make sure that it was consistent with the message they wanted to get out to people. Because I think for a lot of people, when you know the science behind what's going on, it helps a lot, because we're kind of conditioned oh, you're weak. It's willpower. It's motivation. No, it's not. It's science. And also what you were saying that sugar wasn't always available. That's true. It wasn't. But high fructose corn syrup changed everything, mm-hmm. because it's basically genetically modified to make us want more. Mm-hmm. And if you look at something like licorice, which was my favorite thing in the whole wide world, it is just straight up high fructose corn syrup. So, but like in other countries,
eat just one piece.
Yeah, but in other countries, it's made of sugar, like regular sugar. Okay. In America, it's made of high fructose corn syrup. So that's why I could never just eat one piece. It's because when I had one Twizzler or one whatever, everything that would fire in my brain was like, oh, great, she's finally giving us what we want. Next thing I would notice would be an empty box or an empty bag or whatever. Or then whenever I was in, I was somewhere, I was in Costa Rica or someplace, and I bought the same thing, and I could have one piece of it. And I turned it around. I'm like, oh, it's just sugar. Mm-hmm. So there is a different reaction. And so much of what we have is the high fructose corn syrup, which is, I think, why it's such a huge game shifter to us, is because it does it's in everything. It's so cheap. And that's why I believe, and a lot of other people do as well, if you look at like the obesity rates in America, it's just like this with the introduction of high fructose corn syrup. Yeah. It's like they're partners in crime. Yeah. And, I did this presentation last week in New York where I talked about food trends throughout my life, because I was born in 1975. And obesity rates were like in the low teens when I was born. Now they're like 60%. I mean, that's a huge jump in 42 years. And, we can talk about society, we can talk about Game Boys and the internet. It's the food, it's what they're feeding us. It's what we're eating. And yeah, our portions are bigger, but our portions are a third bigger, but we're not. So maybe that's a little bit of it, yeah. But it's also what's in our food. So, and I can talk about this for another hour or two, but there's a lot to it. But I think, circle back to your question, I think eliminating sugar is the first place to start.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because we could talk, if we want to come back, if people want to hear Erin talk some more about the impact of high fructose corn syrup on our diets and how that's changed exercise and portions and all that, we can schedule another call. Just let us know and we'll do that. It's been really great to talk with you. And I'm going to ask people who are watching today to hold off going to get Erin's book. It will be free on Thursday. Right now it's in pre-order, and I looked while you were talking, it's in pre-order for 99 cents. But if you wait until Thursday to get it, it will be free. And you'll also help Erin to promote the book a little more thoroughly. I'm sure you have contact information in your book there about how people can get together with you and get some supports from you. So we'll ask people to reach out to you. You could put a note in the bottom of this Zoom call today if you want to get in touch with Erin. And thank you so much for your time, Erin. Good luck with your launch on Thursday. It should be exciting.
It was a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Oh, you are so welcome. Okay, everybody, be well. Talk to you next week.
Bye.